Well, Paul, it's a long trip this weekend, all the way down to Sussex to Crawley. How are the preparations going ahead of this one?
No, we obviously when you have a midweek game, it tightens everything up. But today we'll go through Crawley, the video, and what we would like to try to do, and highlight their sort of style of play and some of their threats that they certainly have. A very comfortable team on the ball, want to dominate possession. I listened to Rob's press, and he's obviously new in there, but he's there for a similar reason to how Scott Lindsay played. He'll have his own ideas in terms of little tweaks, but the basis of it is possession-based football, and they've done that well. So we might respectfully, it's maybe not the biggest name in the division, but they had an excellent season, and they've certainly shown signs that they can compete at this level. So we have to give them the respect that they deserve. And anyone that thinks it'll be an easy game, it'll be wide of the mark. We've got to be as prepared as always. But we obviously always feel that these are areas that we can cause problems in as well.
Does it change the feel of the fixture at all, the fact that Crawley are under new management with Rob Elliott having just gone in?
I think we always do his homework on the opposition. I'm big on that, where you almost get to that paranoia stage if you haven't watched it and you miss something. So we've watched the two games that he's taken charge of, obviously a little bit different, but they've given him an opportunity to look at, I think, most of his players that have been available to him. So we're not, entirely sure what the lineup will be for them, but we know the players, and I think we know in general, like I said, what sort of certainly style, and I think kind of the sort of system that they'll adopt, sort of in and out of possession, different ways. So from that point of view, I'm not sure it does. What I would say is, you listen to it, it's all really positive. So we've got to try and dampen that.
This is one of only two League One fixtures being played this weekend owing to international call-ups. So in that regard, is it an opportunity? I'm sure Crawley will have similar thoughts maybe to make up ground on some of the teams above you.
Yeah, I guess it is. I thought you were going to go down a different route with that question in terms of the fact that we are playing and others aren't, and we are sounding like a broken record. The point of we're missing a couple of players, and I'm not, whether they would have been in the team or not. That's not really the relevance to my sort of issue with it realistically. But we're playing, and we've known that for the last week, slightly longer, that was probably going to be the case. So there's from that point of view, it's not a case of trying to look for an excuse. We get on with it, and as you said, it's an opportunity. Every game that you play is an opportunity to try and pick up points, and we know how valuable every single point can be.
Do you feel we're getting to the stage where all League One matches should almost be called off, because as they are in the top two divisions, obviously?
I think it makes sense, because what's the value in just having a couple of games on? I'm not really sort of sure of that. So if that's what we're going to look at moving forward, then to me it would make sense. I think it feels, we talk about sort of level playing field, which we know is not quite true with in certain aspects of the league, but at the same time, you'd expect to be playing at similar times. Now, if you go deep into a cup and things like that, of course fixtures get postponed, but that's because there's only going to be a few teams that really affects. When it's the league as a whole, as you're saying there, some teams might look at it and think, well, they've played, and yes, they played more games, but you managed to get a few more points, whatever it is. I would suggest it'd be better if we all tried, at this stage of the season, certainly at least, to have played the same amount of games at the same times.
For you, does it take on extra significance, given you are both in the the bottom four of admittedly an early League One table.
Yeah, I think I got asked the same question in terms of one of their press questions, but I think as was sort of answered, it's another game that's you're trying to get the points, and that's the be all and end all realistically. I think I did speak midweek. I understand it when it's against a team that is probably expected to be at the lower reaches of the division, as ourselves are. You can build it up, and those points can be more valuable, because if you take them, then you've stopped potentially a rival. We don't know if that's going to be the case. The early table suggests that, but it stops them from getting points, and maybe emphasis on them trying to cause more upsets again, like ourselves. So, I'm not judging us differently than the opposition, but like I said, the biggest thing for me is it's just the next game. It's the next game to try and get points from. We had an excellent point last weekend, and then had a cup game in midweek, which we know the quality that we faced, and the scoreline wasn't what we would have liked, but as I've said, that to me was irrelevant's not the right word, because we're playing a game of football and you want to do your best, but it didn't. I think you asked me, would it have any impact moving towards a weekend, or I was asked, and I certainly don't think that would be the case.
So you've got no Luca Hall and Aaron Pierre. They're both away representing their countries. In terms of the rest of the squad, how's availability looking for this one?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't got a massive squad to pick from, we know that, but the same as the other night, realistically. Jordan Shipley has been for a scan. We're awaiting those results, should find out today at some point, I believe. And JJ continues to be on his sort of road to recovery. He'll be out on the grass today as he continues to try and get back fit.
You look at the Jordan Shipley injury. He'd been out of the team for a few weeks. He came back in and played so well, scored a fantastic goal. Never a good time for any footballer to pick up an injury, but that seems particularly unfortunate, perhaps. Yeah,
look, as you said, he can't. I'm not going to sit here and say we'll miss him loads and loads because he's been an ever present. Because as you've just touched on, Saturday I decided to put him back in, and I guess he repaid that faith with his goal. But I also thought his performance was good, again with and without the ball. I thought he used his experience at times when Bolton had the ball, but he filled areas. He tried to get tight with Sheehan when possible, but when it was obvious that he can't get the ball, he then filled a different space. And sometimes that's it might sound a very small thing, but it's important to the team structure. Helps the rest of the players around him so they can take their positions. And I thought he just used his experience really well. And as I said at the weekend, I think when he went off, no disrespect to Leo was his direct replacement or anyone else coming on the pitch, but I think we missed him when he went off.
And Josh Coyote is getting closer all the time. I'm sure you're welcoming having him available soon, because what we've seen of him, he made a good impact. Scored a goal in the League Cup, didn't he, against Notts County. Getting closer.
Yeah, he is. And you want all your players available. Now what that would do is cause an issue in terms of the 6 loans. I think certainly up to this point of the season that hasn't been an issue, and it was part of the reason why I ended up going down that route, because I'm pretty sure I said it and I stand by it. It's not an ideal situation you want if everyone is fit. In terms of those loan players, you're having to leave someone out that perhaps doesn't deserve to be. But because of that injury, we had Josh Feeney injured. He kind of didn't feel, or it felt rather the right thing to do. So that's what we went down. So if that's a problem that I have to deal with on the horizon, I'm happy to deal with that, because ultimately you do want your players fit. And also, as I mentioned before, for JJ himself, I think he needs a break. It's easy for people to be critical of him and question him, but the reality is I'm convinced he doesn't want to be in the gym. He doesn't want to be on the outside looking in while the lads are training. I'm sure he wants to go and show what he can do. And as you touched on, he scored a goal. He showed some glimpses of what he can do. And it's interesting when you go places, you speak to maybe other teams and they mention his name or say about what's happening with him. Oh, I like him. He's an handful. We played against him. He was an handful. And we would like to see obviously more of that ourselves. So fingers crossed that everything can keep progressing as it is, and it won't be too long for him.
Good to see the captain, Carl Winchester, back on Tuesday for the Birmingham game, albeit playing in a different position, wasn't playing in midfield. That midfield area in particular, we know you haven't got the biggest of squads, but that area does seem to be the one where you perhaps have quite a bit of competition. Could give you a headache. Yeah. Potentially, couldn't it, when it comes to picking your midfielders?
Yeah, it can. And what ultimately you do want realistically, sometimes it can cause you to lose a little bit of sleep or overthink, but ultimately, again, you want options. And Jordan came in, Rossiter obviously, in pre-season, started, then had his injury, so we missed him. Brought Funzo in, brought Alex in who can play in there, got Taylor Perry. So we have got some good options in there, that's for sure. And when they're all fit and you sit there and you think, yeah, you could argue maybe got one too many, but it's rare that everyone is fit, and we've seen that enough. And again, depending on system, and obviously in Alex's case, Carl's case, certainly they can play different positions, which is part of the reason for wanting them certainly in the squad. Bringing Alex in, and we knew Carl could do that anyway, because when you've got smaller numbers, sometimes you have to ask people to do jobs that might not have done for a little while, but they're capable of doing it. And I think in both lads' cases, they're good lads. They just want to do a job for the team. They're not going to get the bottom lip part. They're not going to sulk. They want to crack on and help the team, try and achieve results.
Thanks as always, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers, Stuart.